So I made a video a little while ago that was talking about don't be a tourist. And somehow that video got, you know, a couple of viewers more than most videos, which I really like. I like the fact that the statement that you shouldn't be a tourist finds traction. It tells me that people aren't necessarily dumb or lazy. It's just that they don't know, they don't know how. They don't know. So what they need is someone to help them understand. And so I figured I'd take it upon myself to go to the next level of this tourism to, let's call it master, right? You start as a tourist, you end up as a master, and in between, there are some phases you might go through. You might find yourself, or you might find someone else. And, there's this poser phase right after the tourist phase that I think is interesting to look at as well. Now, when you're a tourist, you don't know shit, right? You're so cool, you don't need to care. You can go anywhere and not engage, and that is how you treat life, right? Like a buffet. Right? You don't worry about anything, but we should all be worried about you. That's something like that, right? And that doesn't work, and it's annoying for a lot of people to deal with those kind of people, so that was my rant, which was, not very well structured, but I'm glad some people found it informing. Now, when it comes to this next level, I would say don't be a poser. And I realized that tourism is kind of the old world way of dealing with depth, with dealing with engagement. It's right, just ignore it. Just ignore there's depth. Just go to places people have been before and where you know what you get. So you just rehash other people's lives, right? You don't engage in anything difficult unless someone's engaged before, right? And that was in the world where we would, just go to school, find a job, and do well. And some people got lucky and did better than others. And that was our way of dealing with it. Just don't engage, then there's nothing to lose. Now we're moving into this new world where it's different. We all have this podium. We all have the ability to show ourselves. We have the ability to make movies. We have the ability to create Twitter messages. We have the ability to post on Facebook. And so what you see is that we're all under more scrutiny, right? It's not that we can choose to not engage and then we're fine. It's more that we are engaging whether we want to or not. So what has happened is that where people thought, well, they didn't think really. The tourists don't think. They just go somewhere and they're the tourists. We now come to this point where people realize, well, I can't get away with being a tourist, so there's something I have to do. Thus enters the poser. The poser is the person who believes he can get away by whatever reason or for whatever reason by just filling the form of a thing and not the content. So, right, I would say most people are lazy. And to a big degree, I would say I'm lazy. I think a lot of the things that I think about is because it's so much of a hassle to deal with the things that come your way that you're thinking, this doesn't make sense. I need to think of something to deal with this. Other people have that same idea, but they just take it to the other side where they don't say, well, you know what, I'm going to find a better way to do it so I don't have to deal with it. They think, well, what could I do to get rid of this problem? And that's what the poser does. The poser realizes there needs to be something. There needs to be something that he can present, some value that he can add, some impression that he can make. And his idea, or her idea, about that impression is that it's just superficial. It's just what you see is what you get, right? And so the solution to their problem is fake it till you make it. Where the making part is something they usually don't spend a lot of time on anyway, after all, especially if they get away with faking it. Why bother making it if you can fake it? Right? And it has a lot to do, if you ask me, with this idea that shortcuts exist. Now, the way I always tell people is that there are no shortcuts in life. None whatsoever. I don't even know what the word shortcut means. Okay? What I know is that there's like point A and point B, and there's a way to get there. And if there's a faster way to get there than there was before, then it's the better way to go. But a shortcut would like insinuate some sort of wormhole that you can go into and then come out at B without actually crossing the distance, right? Or you could say, well, if you fly with the plane, then it's the direct line. That's a shortcut. It's not a shortcut. It's just the most direct way. And you can do that with a plane. You usually can't do that with a car. So you can't look at the car and talk about the car and say, well, we should be going straight away, because that's not a shortcut. That's just what, if you're in a plane, that's possible. If you're in a car, that's not. So I don't know what a shortcut means. I do know that the internet has been a platform where billions of dollars have been made on the selling of shortcuts to become bloggers, to become video, YouTube, AdWord, God knows what. Just buy this book. Just take this course. If only you would read, 5 minutes for 10 days, then you can change your life. You don't need to take a diet. You don't need to exercise. You can just stare in the mirror and tell yourself these words and you will lose weight, right? People are desperate enough to believe it, apparently. And you know why they're desperate? Is because there's not a lot of good content out there. There isn't a lot of people who are telling you what it's like just because they know what it's like, and they're annoyed by people struggling. They're annoyed by people making money of other people struggling. And I pretend to be one of those people, okay? And I mean that. I'm not saying I pretend because, I don't know what I'm to you. Maybe I'm just some entertaining rant guy. That's fine too. But the point is, we need people to figure stuff out. We need people to share that with those that want to know what we figured out and how we did it so they can do it for themselves. And what you will find is that in a culture where pictures are the way of conveying your quality of life, conveying the amount of fun you're having, conveying whatever. I knew that was going to happen. So you will find that people that are conveying their life status via images is that they can get away with faking it. They don't have to be doing anything. They have to pose as doing. They don't have to be anything. They can just pose as something that they are. And that, my friends, is a very dangerous image to follow. It's a very dangerous thing to look at, right? You see, once you start believing that faking or posing is enough, then where you will end up is a very sad and lonely place. You will find yourself constantly being faced by your own hypocrisy, right? You will not realize until one day someone might realize that, might make you realize that anything worth having is the thing you've worked for, the thing you've earned, and not in other people's eyes, but in your own. So pretending to be a successful someone, pretending to be a good someone at something, without content is like the worst thing you can do to yourself. It is like a slap in your own face. It's like people feel like posers just because that's the experience of life, meaning to have all this nuance and all this content inside your brain and to realize that everything is so complex and nuanced that you don't know what the hell's going on and you wouldn't know what to do with it even if someone told you to. That is life in itself, especially when you're young. But to then go out and pretend you're something you're not, that will just exponentially increase cognitive dissonance within you and cause stress all the time. If I can give you one tip, is be humble. Be humble to yourself, be humble to the outside world. Try to be the underdog. Really. You can only surprise others, you can only surprise yourself. People that come out out of the gates pretending to be top dog, especially young people, no offense, but I've been there, so I know how you feel. But now I'm 40 years old, and I know what I can do, and I know what I've learned through the years. And when I see some young kid come to me thinking, if I just, right, in the business world, if I got the suit and I've got the talk, and then I've got the content. If you deal with real people, if you deal with people that get stuff done, you will be disappointed. You will find out that, and I'm not saying there's not talented good guys that pay attention, because there are, but not many, right? It isn't every guy in a suit, right? Every youngster in a suit isn't a talented guy that is making his way to the top, let me tell you, for sure, all right? So what you need to do is get away from those kind of people, the posers, because they make you think that having something you haven't earned is actually valuable when it's nothing. They make you feel like shortcuts exist, but you just haven't found it, but they have. They make you feel like you should be something that you have no right being yet. And that is the wrong lesson. They're pretending like the outcome is the point, when life is a journey. So the outcome is death. And images are just that. They are dead structure. They are things that you infuse meaning into. So you see some guy posting on Facebook, and then you start thinking, well, look at his pictures, look at his life he's look at his girlfriend, look at his boyfriend, look at this, look at his muscles, look at whatever, right? There's nothing behind it except what they put in, and the only value it has is what they put in, and the only one who should find it valuable is they themselves, right? That's the place you need to get to. You need to get to the place where the outside world isn't the confirmation for you, right? Because that's what posers need. They need to be confirmed in order to believe it themselves so they can keep posing. Because it wears you down. If everyone keeps attacking your pose, then not until long will you take another pose, because it doesn't sustain constant negotiation, constant negating of danger, right? It doesn't sustain. It's not sustainable unless it gets infused with meaning. And in order to do that, you need to be, convincing other people. It's like going to church. It's like you need to go and hold that sermon, and every time people say hallelujah, you believe it's true, what you just told them. Just as long until you start believing it, and then you start telling other people that's exactly how it is, and you start telling yourself that's actually exactly how it is. And here you are not a tourist because you know something's got to give, right? The tourist is the unknown unknown. The poser is the known unknown. He knows he should be learning something, he just doesn't know what. So he's just going to pretend like he's already known it, and then hope he gets away with it, right? All he's doing is trying to prevent falling on his face, when the best thing that could happen to him is to fall on his face and deal with reality and just face where you are and go from there. Don't freaking try to fool us, because what you're doing is you're fooling yourself. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is that people that feel the need to fool other people feel a need to fool themselves, and that's where they make the mistake. You don't need to fool anyone, especially not yourself. You need to be open and honest. The only way you're going to get to point B from point A is if you are honest about where you are now. You can't go to point B if you're on point C telling everyone you're on point A, because everyone tell you directions that don't make sense, and you will start to believe that that's the way you need to go, and you will never arrive. Be someone you want to follow. Be unique. Be someone that puts time and effort into things, because that's where good things come, right? Let go this idea that talent means something, that talent is something that should give you credit, that talent is something you can get away with, because the only person you're selling short is yourself, right? You might be as good as some really good person just because you're so talented, right? And you think, look at me, I'm the guy, I'm the girl, I've made it, because I'm here and I don't have to do anything, right? That was me when I was young. But let me tell you where you can get to if you start competing with the only person you should be competing with yourself. You should be competing with energetic self. You should be competing with your ambitious self, right? When you're tired and want to rest, compete with the you that says, no, I'm not going to rest, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it better, right? Do you understand? You're competing with yourself. And if you're not working for your ability, but you're just using your talent, that means there's so much potential you're wasting. Because if life has taught me anything, it's that talent can get you a long way, but hard work will get you anywhere. And it's just, talent is something to facilitate that, so you get further and you'll get there faster if you're talented. But if you're not, whatever. Let something propel you from within. Don't look for confirmation on the outside. Don't look for prizes. Don't look for outcomes. Look for striving. Where do you want to strive, right? Posers, they don't want to strive. They just want the outcome. They've got it all figured out the wrong way. Be smart. Forget the pose. Think about the dance. It's a movement. It's not a structure, really. And I'll get back to that pretty soon, because I've figured out some things that are pretty cool, and I want to tell you about it. So that's my advice for now. Don't be a poser. Don't be a tourist. Don't be a poser. And we're going to look at what you should be doing pretty soon. Thanks.